Namaskar. Welcome all of you to the 83rd episode of Reflections celebrating the centenary of Bharat Ratna Pandit Ravi Shankar ji. And today's episode, I'm very happy to invite Shri Ajay Riki Ramji. He is the third generation of the eminent sitar makers in India, and he's continuing the legacy of his grandfather, Pandit Riki Ramji, and his father, Pandit Bishan Das ji. Let's welcome Ajay Bhai, my dear friend, whom I'm going to speak today and get to know more about our Guru Pandit Ravi Shankar ji. Welcome, Ajay Bhai.
Namaskar.
Namaskar. Namaskar. How are you?
I'm all well. And how are you, Gaurav bhai?
I'm doing very well, Ajay Bhai. So, what a pleasure to see you and welcome you in this event. I'm really looking forward to hearing your story.
Thank you for having me in this reflection series. And I'm so honored and I'm so grateful to Cinema for thinking about me and, we'll be talking about the great man, respected Guruji.
Ji. So where do we begin the journey? Where do you want to start from, Ajay Bhai?
Well, I would start when Guruji told me that he had visited many times Lahore for his concerts, and he had visited my grandfather's shop and workshop there in which he established in 1920. And it's the similarity is my grandfather, he started in 1920. He established the business in 1920, and Guruji was born in 1920. So
Correct.
it's very similar. The year is absolutely the same. So he would visit. He had, he always was interested in, how these sitars are made, and the instrument he is playing, how these instruments are being made, and what extra you can do, how to enhance the sound of the instrument. So he would always love to, visit the shops, and he would go to Lahore and visit my grandfather uh, when India was not divided. So after partition in 1947, then my grandfather and my father, they decided to move to Delhi. So I would rather start from there, where Guruji visiting my grandfather at the shop, and then later on when partition happened, and in 1949 when Guruji, served All India Radio, and he was there in Delhi for about 3-4 years. And during that time, my father, he became his disciple, the official disciple of Guruji in 1949. And from there on, our journey began with Guruji. We got very close to Guruji since then. And my father always always admired him, always had a great respect for him, and being his guru, he would always, whatever he used to say, that that this has to be done or this has to be done, it would be the first thing that he would do is for Guruji, and he would set aside the other things. He would just concentrate what Guruji has told him to do. So which was, it was a great relationship my father had with him. And in year 1949 when he became his disciple, uh, that was in All India Radio when it happened. My father was taking care of all the instruments in All India Radio, and during that time Guruji was working for the Vativrand orchestra. We must be knowing about it. So uh, he always wanted the assistance of, that all the instruments are sounding good, all the instruments are uh, perfect to whatever his liking was, and he needed that assistance from my dad. So which my father, did. And after that, then probably Guruji had left All India Radio, and he moved on to go to Mumbai or probably he went to the West, and he got so busy with his own things. But he had always the connection with my father somehow through his students, and the students would, bring the message from Guruji that Guruji wants this, Guruji wants that. Whenever, it was a annual feature that, Guruji used to come to Delhi or India every year. Uh, he made it a point whenever he, like in winters, he used to always come to India and, go around India, do the tour of India in the winters. Uh, November, December, January, February was these were the months when he used to come to India and perform here. And during that time, it used to be like, for my father, it used to be like a festival for him that, oh, Guruji is going to be here, and then I have to show him something new, because my father always had this flair of doing experimental work on instruments and bringing out some new ideas to enhance the sound of the sitar, of the tanpura, and changing the bridges, changing the wood of the instrument to enhance the tonal quality, and show it to Guruji every year when he used to prepare himself for that winter session of Guruji coming to India. And he would show him, and then he would appreciate and always encourage him, because he always had a special place. Guruji all had a very, very special place for my father, because he liked him so much that he would always do some kind of experiments, and he would always think out of the box to enhance the instrument sound, to do something new, which Guruji always appreciated. And Guruji had that persona of doing the experimental work in his music as well. So it just gelled, the two musical minds. Sometimes it was so to witness that, that both those minds working for the musical sounds and the perfect sounds, to watch that, to witness that, was a great, it was a great opportunity for me to, later on in the years. In 1964, my father came out with this idea of making a transistorized sitar, which had an inbuilt amplifier and inbuilt speaker in it, which Guruji really appreciated. And he said, I'm going to play this sitar in my upcoming concert in Sapru House. And he had that daring. Guruji, I was like, my father tells me all this story. So I was, I always think that how daring Guruji must be during that years, that he just picked up the new instrument and he just performed flawlessly in Sapru House. And he appreciated that experiment, and he announced it on the stage, saying that my student Vishan Das ji has made this sitar specially for me, this transistor sitar, which has an inbuilt amplifier and a microphone and the speaker in it. So during that time, it was a big challenge for the sound engineers, and the microphones were not of good quality. They always had the issue of feedbacks, and these kind of challenges were there. So that was the idea to bring out this new idea of making an inbuilt amplifier and inbuilt speaker sitar, which he performed flawlessly, Guruji. And these kind of experiments, which Guruji really liked about my father. And later on in 1966, my father actually, my Guruji, respected Guruji, told my father that now that I'm traveling a lot, it becomes very difficult for me to carry the accompanying tanpuras, the two big accompanying tanpuras, the male tanpuras, they were very cumbersome to travel around with it. And that it is made from gourd, and if gourd gets broken, then you can't use the instrument. So my father, he thought of making a small tanpuri, which is widely used nowadays, all these years. And these tanpuras are much, much smaller, very easy to travel around, and you're not sacrificing the sound, and you get enough sound out of these tanpuras for accompaniment for sitar, which Guruji really liked it, and he was proudly showing every musician this new creation of my father of the tanpuras, which were like only 39 inches long and flat bass, all wooden made tanpuris. And he would always, travel. Since 1966, he's been traveling with those tanpuras all around the world. And these kind of experiments, and in 1970 my father visited United States, and he stayed with the respected Guruji in Los Angeles during that time. He was in Los Angeles, Guruji, and he stayed there and he worked on instruments there, all his students instruments in Los Angeles area. Then he went to Ali Akbar College, Ali Akbar Khan Sahab's College in San Francisco. He stayed there as well. And during that time, Guruji asked my father to make sitar for Shubhoji, his son Subhoji, respected Subhoji. And I think after 2 years or so, he made the sitar and he showed it to Guruji. And Guruji really liked it, and he said, "Yeah, this is absolutely good for Shubhoji." And Shubhoji played that sitar all the years he lived. And in 1979, again, my father, got a project from Guruji. Guruji told him to make a sitar of detuning. Probably he was planning to play with some orchestra, some orchestral work, Western orchestral work. So he wanted a detuning sitar. So my father started working on that sitar, and he made that sitar in probably after 1 or 2 years, he completed that sitar. I think in 1980 or 81, he showed it to Guruji. And Guruji really liked it, and he played that sitar with all the orchestral work, all the Western orchestras work he did. After that, he played that sitar in those orchestras. And later on, that sitar became his main sitar. In those years, he was playing Nodu Malikji's sitar, which was made by Nodu Malikji. And that particular sitar which he played during that time, which was, I would say, 1960s till late 1970s. He played that sitar all the time. That sitar, all the material was provided by my father from his workshop. Noduji had, respected Guruji asked Noduji to go to my father's workshop and get those material, whatever material is required to make the sitar. So he picked up the gourd, the wood, the inlay work, material, everything was picked up from the workshop, and that was the sitar which Guruji played during that time. And in 1980s, then he started playing the sitar which my father made for him. And the orchestral work, if you remember, Gaurav, the New York Philharmonic Orchestra, Zubin Mehtaji was conducting that orchestra, and Guruji played with that orchestra in early 80s. And in 82 also there was Asian Games, and Guruji composed music for 1982 Asian Games. I remember that composition of Shubh Swagatam. That was the
correct. Swagatam, Shubha Swagatam.
Correct. So that was the time when that sitar was made for him, and later on that became the main sitar for Guruji, which he played after that years, and for 20 years. And he always, why he did not play Nodu Malikji's sitar later on, because every sitar has its own life, and playing so many hours on the sitar. Sitar takes a lot of wear and tear. So gradually, the sitar loses its tonality over the years of playing. Like every sitar, I would say, like 20 to 25 years is the lifespan of a plucking instrument because it takes a lot of wear and tear. So he had to change the sitars. In 1940s and 50s, he used to play the Kanhai Lal sitar. So that he played for 20, 21, 22 years. And then later on, Noduji made that sitar. He played that sitar for 20, 25 years. And then later on, which my father made in 1979, 80s, that sitar he played for 25 to 30 years. That was the lifespan of that's why he had to change the sitar. So the sitar loses its tonality because the moisture goes away from the wood, and then the wood becomes brittle. So because of the brittlity of the wood, the sound is not the same. It is just like, Guruji used to say, it's sitars are just like humans. It's human being. You have your childhood, and then you have your youthful years, and then you have your 30s and the 40s, and then the old age. So you reach your prime, and then you go to the old age. So it's the sitar life is also, he used to explain it that way, Guruji, that the sitar also has just similar to the human life. So in 1982, during that time where this Asian Games music was Asian Games that music was happening, and Guruji was busy doing the composition of that music. During that time, that was the first time I got the chance to see Guruji, physically. I used to hear about him all my childhood. I used to hear about him. My father always talking about him. So I used to always wonder, who is this great man? My father is always talking about Guruji, Guruji, and he's constantly this name is always being said in our house, and my father is always talking about Guruji. So in 1982, I got the chance. My father, decided to take me along with me to the whole Lodi estate house, when he used to, during that time, he used to live in Lodi estate, 95 Lodi estate. And that was the first time I had met Guruji. And it was a very, very special day for me. I took his blessings, I touched his feet. I was speechless. I could not say anything. I was just looking at him. I was just, looking at him all the time. And he was saying, say something. And I couldn't say anything. I was just looking at him all the time. And I was speechless. And I got the chance of taking his blessings during that time. And probably during that time, I think you came from Allahabad, and Gaurav bhai, you were there, and Shubhendra bhai was there, Aditya bhai was there.
Correct.
And
Correct.
It was like a new batch of students he introduced to my father, and I was there, and that was the time when I first met you.
Yes.
And,
yes.
Yeah. So this journey continued from there, and it was like my grandfather, starting from my grandfather in 1940s to my father and to me, and it was like 3 generations of association with respected Guruji. So that was the first time I met Guruji in 1982. And then on and off, I used to go every winters. Guruji used to come to India, and it used to be like a occasion for us. And my father had to show something new. He would always had this responsibility. It's what he always took it that way, that it's a responsibility for me to do something new, or think about something new, or some kind of development in the sitar or a new instrument, and show it to Guruji. He felt that responsibility of doing something and showing it to Guruji. It was like as you are doing your semester system, like, you are in an institute and you had to, do your submission, and Guruji is there and going to, Gurukul. It was like a Gurukul,
Getting your progress report.
yeah, you have to, submit your progress report. What have you done all the year? What have you done? Like, show it to me. What is your submission? So that was the relationship my father had with Guruji. And every year we used to go, and my father would make a new instrument. Oh, look at this is a new swar sangam I have made. This is a combination of tanpura and swar mandal. Then he would come out with some other new instrument idea of making pushpa veena. You remember, you were there,
Very much.
yeah, the pushpa veena. He actually named all these instruments. Guruji, he used to make the new instrument, and he used to bring it to Guruji, hand it over to him. He would look at it and he would name that instrument. So it was a wonderful experience to see all this happening in front of you and witnessing the great minds working towards music. For me, I would say, for me, Guruji was a God sent messenger of music, who went all around the world spreading the knowledge of music so beautifully. That's how I looked at Guruji. He was a sage. He was a such a powerful figure. He was such a powerful magnetic figure. He was always surrounded by people. We would go to Lodi Road house, and we would see number of people always there, and talking about music. And he was surrounded by people, musicians, and you know uh, the food is laid down and everybody is eating. But every time we went, 15-20 people, not less than that. Every time 15-20 people would be there, eating, chatting, having coffee, having snacks, and talking about music. So it was like such a beautiful atmosphere there. Always, it was always a special day for us to visit Guruji and take his blessings. And during that time, my father also did one experiment on the slide guitar, which was later on called Hansa Veena. And Guruji named it Hansa Veena because the headstock was shaped like a Hans. So he immediately said, "Oh, this should be called as Hansa Veena." And many musicians are playing Hansa Veena from that year on. Later on, in 1995, my respected Guruji told my father that, if you don't mind, if I ask Ajay to come and uh, accompany me for the US tour in 1995. That was the first time I started touring with Guruji. And my job touring with Guruji was taking care of the sitar, the tanpuras, and making sure that the sound check is good, the sound quality is good in the auditorium. So this was and carrying the sitar for him to the stage. So which was like, it was a great feeling. I since my childhood, I would always dream of, being close to Guruji, learn things from Guruji. It was not about only music, about life in general. Going around with people, talking to people, meeting different kind of people, all high dignitary people. Big bureaucrats, big, head of the states of different countries. So it was an experience in 1995, from 1995 to I think year 2002. That was the years I extensively traveled with the respected Guruji all around the world, in Europe and United States, and it was real big fun. And I have very beautiful memories touring around with him and learning so many things from him. and about the sitar, how to take care of the, how to treat the sitar. Once I remembered, I was working on the sitar, and in San Diego, I was working on the sitar, and he came to look at it and he said, "Is the work done?" So I said, "Yeah, it's almost done, Guruji." He said, "Oh, okay, take a break and have snacks." So I had snacks, and both of us, we had snacks and tea together. And then I forgot to wash my hands. And then I was about to touch the sitar, and he stopped me. He said, "No, no, 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 don't touch the sitar. You just had snacks, so why don't you go and wash your hands, and then you touch the sitar." So then I realized, yeah, yeah. See, this is another thing I have learned. I should, it's not a piece of wood. It's a
It's a
deity.
sacred.
Ah,
It's so sacred.
it's sacred. It's you have to worship it. So these are the small little things, the little detailed things, you would learn from Guruji. And he was such a powerhouse of knowledge of not only music, about the current affairs, about the you take sports, you take movies, you take any subject, he would speak about it. He used to read like 5 6 books at the same time. It was like, it was like, it's that ability he had, this kind of ability. He was, during that time, there was no Google, there was no Wikipedia or anything. He was himself an encyclopedia. you know he would gather all the information from here and there, and so amazing to see. Nowadays it's so easy to, go to these platforms and get the information out, and during that time, during that era, having that kind of knowledge and that kind of information from all around the world, it's it's wonderful. It's like, it's amazing. It was like, for us to, think about it, to, it's very difficult for a normal human being to do that. So after 2002, my touring with Guruji kind of faded down, because my parents, they needed more attention, due to health reasons, the health issues they were facing. So I had, asked Guruji that I would not be able to tour around with him after 2002. So that was the time I could not tour with him, but I used to constantly get messages from him, and I would visit Chanakya Puri center whenever I used to get a call from him, whenever I used to go there, and whatever service I could do, little service I could do, I used to do that. So, and he was so great, and he was so wonderful person, that he would understand the whole situation. He would understand the whole situation, and you know, it was so wonderful to, see that, experience that, and learn so many things from him. One more thing I just came into my mind right now: the Carnegie Hall experience. The Carnegie Hall experience. It was such a great experience to see that hall, and to experience the stage, to experience the audience there. If you remember that the album he came out with, the Full Circle, which got the Grammy Award, and that concert, the live concert, was recorded. I think it was in 1998 or so.
You were part of that album.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
and I'm so I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of it that my name is mentioned over there.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, so I'm to be a part of that. And I remember after the concert, when that concert got recorded, we were there in New York for another 4 5 days, and Guruji asked me that I should come along and accompany him to the studio and stay with him and tell him that wherever the sound is not okay. And I was like, so, I was so I could not. I was speechless. I would like, he had so much trust on me. He's asking me to come along and see the recording process of the sound editing process in the studio. And we were there in studio for 2 days. 2 days, we had to go to the studio, and we the first day and the second day and the third day, 3 days. 3 days we would go to the studio, me and Guruji, and I think Chinnama was also there, and we used to be in the studio from morning till the evening, and again and again the recording used to be played, and Guruji used to ask me, "Is the sound okay? Is the sound okay? Are you happy with the sound, or should I tell him to do something with the sound?" So that was a good learning process for me. It was, to understand how the studio editing work is done, and how Guruji was so particular about all the perfectionist he was. All the details he would say, no, 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 you just play it again, do this editing, do that editing, and it was such a learning process for me. I can never forget those 3 days, of learning about sound, learning about the studio work. And I'm so blessed. I'm really blessed to have that kind of knowledge from Guruji, to understand the intricacies of sound and the tone quality of the instruments.
That's wonderful, wonderful. How nice! Such great memories, Ajay bhai, huh?
Absolutely,
When
absolutely.
you think back, you miss these people so much, but these moments are so etched in our heart and our mind that we'll cherish it for the rest of our life.
Right, right. And in 19, I think 19, not 19, I think around 1999 or 2000 year, Guruji had also asked me to make sitar for Anushka, and Anushka had some that during that time she had some problem with her tendinitis. So she said, when I play the sitar, I think she was playing the Nodu Malik sitar, the second sitar of Guruji, and the leaves, if you know, the gourd has the extension leaves. It's like a enforcement to the gourd and the gulu joint of
Yeah,
sitar, and the right hand, the forearm is placed over that area. So she would have that problem of tendinitis, probably due to that leaves, because it's bulging out. So she asked me that, can you do something about this? What can I do? I get this disturbance from these leaves. So I said, why don't we remove it? Just remove the leaves. And then she said, why don't you make a sitar for me, a new sitar? I would. And then Guruji said, oh, why not? Why not? That's a good idea. So why don't you we come out with a new sitar with this new design of having no leaves, but have a little wood carving on the gullu part, not the leaves. Leave out the leaves. So I went to my dad and I told my dad that Guruji had said this, and Anushka wants a sitar where the leaves are not there. So he said, no, let's do it. Let's do this project, and we made the sitar, and I think it was year 2000, 2000 or 2001. Then that time, I think we made that sitar and gave it to Anushka, which she's still playing that sitar.
there was a name you gave. I mean, Bishandas ji gave a name to that sitar.
Mm,
It had a special carving, a special decoration.
yeah, yeah, special. It was like a necklace design kind of
Yes,
a
yeah, necklace sitar. Yeah, yeah,
necklace sitar or something like that came out. That name came out suddenly.
yes,
So he said,
yes.
necklace shaped.
That is so much associated to Anushka. So personal.
Yeah, it's very personal, as being a female sitar player. It's like, the
Yeah,
necklace
yeah, yeah.
makes sense. It gets
Yes.
connected. Yeah.
Correct, correct. Very much, very much.
And then later on, this travel sitar. We came out with this travel sitar. My Arun Bharat Ramji, you know Arun Bharat Ramji.
Okay.
Arun Bharat Ramji asked my dad to make a travel sitar for him because he used to travel around for his business tours. So he wanted a travel sitar which is convenient to carry it around and don't lose his practice. So we made a travel sitar which was proportionately smaller in size. Even the dart was small. The dart width was small, less compared to the normal sitar. So that sitar was made, and he was kind of quite happy with it. And he said, "Yeah, at least my practice will not have a break. I'll have constant practice with this sitar." Then my idea got stuck into my mind that why don't we make a sitar where the um, scale length remains the same. The scale length of the sitar, the regular sitar, remains the same. The body gets smaller, body gets flat, a flat based sitar, all wooden, no gourd used, and regular size neck, so that you don't feel the difference of a main sitar and a travel sitar uh, when you're playing, when you have when you're fretting the strings, when you're playing the mean work on the sitar, that same tension, you don't feel the difference of from a smaller sitar to a bigger sitar. So it remains the same. So then we came out with this new model called travel sitar with a regular size neck with a smaller sound box and the same scale length. So which became very popular, and later on I developed it as an electric sitar where active pickup was used, active humbucking pickup was used. Now that is also widely played uh, by the musicians. When you have to play with the louder instruments, when you are not playing these solo instruments, solo performance. For a solo performance, definitely you need an acoustic instrument, which is the acoustic sitar, which is a normal acoustic sitar. But for playing a performance where you have a very loud instruments like keyboards, electronic keyboards, or electric guitars, or drums, the drum kit, they are very loud instruments. So you can't compete that sound through amplification through microphone. So through microphone, it's not possible. As you take the volume up, you will get a feedback. So then we started using the active pickups like magnetic pickups, humbucking pickups, where you can take the volume to the 10 notches where you will not get a feedback, and you can compete with the amplified sound of the louder instruments. So that is in the later years we did that work. But traditional people will definitely will argue about it, and would say that it's not acceptable, or but now the world music is happening so much that this kind of sitar is also required, apart from the normal classical set. When you're playing a classical set, then definitely for the solo set you have to play the acoustic sitar, but when you're playing with the louder instruments you need the electric sitar. So this is later on we did that work.
Yeah, Chinnama she's saying she still uses only that design. And the sitar is called Anu sitar.
Anu sitar, okay.
Necklace Anu sitar.
Necklace Anu sitar, right.
And yeah, this is where she's saying, Ajay, you did the necklace sitar for her, where you copied her necklace.
Yes.
Onto the carving, basically.
Yeah.
So this
I
is
think
very
one of the concerts she was wearing that necklace. Some
yes,
kind of, yeah. I think it was in Siri Fort Auditorium when she
yeah,
was playing with Guruji. She was playing that necklace,
yeah.
and she was playing, not playing the necklace, playing the sitar, and she was wearing that necklace.
Yes,
And probably we got that idea
that
from there.
necklace you copied and you brought it onto the.
Correct,
Uh,
on the sitar.
so that is amazing. That is amazing. I this is a point where it would be nice, Ajay Bhai,
Hmm.
if you can. Yeah. Go on, please, please. I don't want to interrupt your
You
thought.
can, you can go on, but
No.
whatever you want to,
From the
to be
background
pushed.
of sound
Uh,
and from the background of being an instrument maker, would you? It would be nice for our listeners and also lots of students of music and people who follow sitar and Indian music. Explain the sound of Guruji and explain the sitar of Guruji.
Well,
The
it has
technical
developed
aspect
over
of
the years. Guruji's sound has developed over the years. If you listen to Guruji's earlier sitars and the sitars of the later years, it is so much you can distinguish that sound, that tone, the recordings of 1940s or 50s, and then the 60s sound and the 80s sound, and then later on to the 90s and the 2000 years sound, that you can distinctively, because the development it happened, the development happened over the years. It was not like in in 2 days it had happened. It's, over the years the development happened. Guruji was following the Dhrupad style of vocal system to follow. Instrumentalist, the target for instrumentalist is always to follow the vocals, but what kind of vocals, whether it is Khyal vocals or Dhrupad vocals. So Guruji was following the Dhrupad vocals, and that was the achievement of an instrumentalist, to follow the vocals as close as possible. So, following the Dhrupad vocals, he would require a wide range of, the frequencies. The wide range of frequencies means from the laraj, from the kharaj to the higher notes to the mid frequency notes. So he would require the whole range of those frequencies, and he would always wanted to enhance those sounds and enhance the tonality of those frequencies. So he would always constantly think about working on it. So it was the Kanhai Lal sitar, then later on Nodu Malik ji's sitar, then later on my father's sitar. So he would tell these people that this is what I want, this is what exactly I'm looking at. So that frequencies he had in mind, the higher frequencies, they should not sound very close, they should sound little open. Then the mid frequencies, not very open, not very close, mid kind of tonality. Then the kharaj laraj pancham, kharaj pancham and the laraj sa, that sound should give the overtones of Gandhar, and the Pancham Kharaj should give the overtones of Re, Pancham, and Ni, and these kind of, he always would tell the sitar makers to, enhance more and more, to follow the Dhrupad vocals, and also to enhance the, the sustainability of. And he would always complain about, when he's playing the kharaj strings. For example, he pulls the kharaj strings, the other strings would go sharp, and when he's playing the main strings or the joda strings, he would fret or take a meat on the main string. Then the kharaj and laraj strings would go sharp. So it was constantly happening. So it had a separate kind of riyaz. He used to say that I had to do a separate kind of riyaz to keep the balance of the tuning while playing, so that the listeners would not know that this has happened, and he would just immediately tune the sitar, and he's back to his musical phrases. So that kind of things, we had to do experimental works to, get rid of these shortcomings and the troubleshootings he used to face while he was performing, and that breaks were there, and then he had to put down his sitar while he's playing. He had to put down the sitar, and then he's tuning it up, and then he's back on his posture to play the sitar. So it used to break the flow of the music. That the flow is kind of disturbed, when you just put down the sitar and then you tune it, and then you make your mind frame, and then you start playing your musical phrases again. You being a sitar player, you would know better that what I'm trying to say. So that tuning stability, we had to really work on the tuning stability factor, and that was a big challenge for us to have the stability of tuning, and not losing the tonality, and not losing the sound which he's after. So as you see through the years, when Noduji's sitar was there, and he was traveling a lot, and that sitar also took so much beating because of the traveling. Many times it was broken, many times it was repaired by my father, and that stability was not there, because it was made in the 60s. So that kind of technique is not followed right now, because the technique has also developed as the playing has developed. Similarly, it goes hand in hand. So we had to develop according to the playing. Whatever the playing was in the 40s or the 50s, it's not the same what is being played in the current situation. So one more addition he did was the hooks. If the hooks was tied to the komal knee fret and the last fret, and then the last fret moved on to the komal knee. So now there's only one hook where you can plug the pancham kharaj and the laraj sa sitar, the string that you can plug, and then you can do your performance without hitting the the bass strings, because when you're playing the chalas, you tend to hit the bass strings, and then sometimes the bass strings, if they are not in tune, and the sound is amplified, then it looks like a big out of tune note.
It's very jarring.
It's very jarring, and the note would be distorted, and this. So that was that development was done. Then the small bridges was added to the tarab strings to enhance the sound, and these the tarab eyelets, they used to get split very fast, so that really helped to the sound and the longevity of the the tarab buttons. So these things, these small developments kept on happening all these years, and eventually it was reaching towards the perfection where Guruji would like to have the sound that way. So, and also work on the bridge, especially the platform of the bridge, which has to be filed in a different manner than to the other styles of the sitar playing. The the kharaj string, and then the balance of the kharaj strings, and the middle frequency strings, and the joda string, and the middle frequency octave, and then the higher octave. Then the sound has to be equal. The work on the tabli had to be done. The work on the gourd had to be done. So these constant experiments kept on happening over the years, and eventually it came to this point.
It's a gradual process. It's a long-term gradual process, and And so because it's very interesting to see and to know what defines Guruji's sound and Guruji's sitar,
Correct.
because these two are so closely connected.
Mhm.
And it must have been work of a lifetime.
Correct. It's the years of experience. Over the years you keep learning through your mistakes. You do your mistakes and then you learn from your mistakes. It's
Yeah,
not like and Guruji would always encourage. He would always say, doesn't matter. It's not successful. Doesn't matter. He would always encourage. He would say, no, you try again, just do it again. And he would have faith on us and trust on us to that they will someday they will do it. So it was like hit and trial, and then again work on it and show it to him, and then we would bring it back and then work on it and then bring it to him, and then he would look at it and he would then he would approve it. Oh, you can do. He would not appreciate fully. He would say, you can still do better. Even if he's happy with the sound inside, he will never show it. He will never show it that there has to be a margin. Just leave the margin to them.
let's push it further.
Yes, to take it further, he would not. Inside, he would be happy, but he will not show it. He'll say, "Yeah, you can do a little bit more better. Try again. You will do it."
Correct. Very true. And this reminds me also the another talking of the Hansavina and the Pushpavina and all those innovations. Also the two-in-one, the Tanpura and the Swarmandal
Yes.
together, which in the 80s I think Bishan Das ji designed,
Yes. It was late 80s. Yes.
which was used
late
for the Kremlin and the other projects.
Yes, even the orchestral works.
Swarmandal and the Tanpura together in one, that flat-bodied.
Correct.
That was
That was really appreciated by Guruji. He said, "Yeah, that's a fantastic idea to
Yes.
come out with."
yes.
And later on, these then the electronic tanpuras, and then they also came in the electronic tanpuras, and then the swarmandals and electric tablas for practicing.
Correct. That made life really very easy when it comes to travel and be on the move all the time.
Right.
You have something to practice and
But he was always reluctant to use. It was okay, Guruji always said, these electronic items is always for the practice.
Yes.
Not for.
He never used it.
He would never use it for.
Stage was always acoustic for Guruji.
Acoustic, absolutely pure acoustic.
Real people sitting there playing the instruments, real people tuning it. An effort went behind tuning it, keeping it clean, Javari, there's that. And then through that process, when the music comes, it has got a staying power.
Yeah. One more thing I remembered.
Yes.
Do you remember in Lodi Road, 95 Lodi Road, the tailor used to come to take his measurements for his kurta?
Yes.
And
Mahesh Taylor from Kamla Nagar.
Kamla Nagar, correct. And we were there. Me and my father were there, and this gentleman, he came in to take Guruji's measurement, and he was taking his measurement. And then later on, Guruji said, "Oh, take my sitar's measurement also. So make a same cloth, similar design for my sitar also." So he made a special covers, for.
Yes.
He would give measurements for his kurta as well as for his sitar, and the same material was used for
silk,
the sitar.
Beautiful silk.
Yeah,
inner lining and with a same cloth का उसका वो जो डोरी होता था बांधने के लिए.
Right. The string
and
was
on top of it. Then he would send us to Shankar Market to get the plastic and get a plastic cover for the top of that.
On top of that,
keep yes. He was very particular, very particular.
Small details. It was so amazing to see all that.
It's amazing. It's just amazing. So much of
yeah, I think we are blessed to meet such a great man, take his blessings, take all the love he gave to everybody. We are so blessed and fortunate to be witness all this.
Absolutely, absolutely. We really there's not a day goes by without thinking of him, without not playing his music, not thinking about his sound. And we are blessed to be whatever we are doing today. It's his blessings, and we remember him all the time. There is one thing before we go, Ajay Bhai, I would like to ask you. 12th of December 2012. I was traveling from London and I arrived home and got the news as soon as I reached home. Nandita mentioned. Where were you and how do you remember that day?
12. It was very disheartening when we heard the news of Guruji. And
How did you
I
find
was
it?
in Delhi. I was in Delhi. I was not traveling anywhere. I was in Delhi and I was at home. I think that day when I got the news. I don't know what was the time when he.
It was early morning in India and it was around afternoon in San Diego.
Yeah. Afternoon. Yeah, it was early morning. Yes. That time I was at home and he just sat down and I have his photograph. As you can see, the photographs here.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
I was just looking at all those,
I
from the 70th birthday and the Ragmala and
I made this corner especially for this conversation. I am right now at my house, so
yes,
I converted this corner into
Guruji's corner.
Guruji's corner.
Guruji's and Bishan Das Ji's corner.
Yes.
And Ricky Ramji's.
And 12. I just sat before this photograph and just paid my respects to respected Guruji and just prayed for for him and wherever he is. I think he is with us all the time. Physically, he's not here, but he is with us. As I can see, we are selling sitars, we are making sitars by the name Pandit Ravi Shankar style. What else? What else he can give us? What else he can give us? We are selling sitars named as Pandit Ravi Shankar style sitar. It says it all. And recently, Gaurav bhai, I got a chance to write an article about Guruji, our interactions, my father's interaction with the respected Guruji, the Sangeet Natak Academy book, the magazine. I think you have also written about Guruji in that book. Recently, it has happened.
Yes.
I received that book recently, so I have to go through that book. I have to read it. Yes.
It's called Sangana, and it's very it's apt and it's also very timely that the Sangeet Natak Academy brought out something on Guruji, and this is a collector's item with wonderful articles there. And I'm so happy that you are featured there. I'm looking forward. I've still not got it because I'm traveling. I'm in the US. And Sangeet Natak Academy sent me 2 copies, which is waiting in Delhi. So I'm looking forward to reading the all the chapters, and looking forward to reading your article as well. Ajay bhai, thanks a lot for coming today. Thank you very much. It's always been a pleasure. Always been a pleasure to meet you, speak to you, interact, play, and I seek the blessings of Guruji, of Bishan Das ji, of Ricky Ramji, and look forward to continuing this journey. And I look forward to seeing you soon. You stay safe.
Sure. Likewise, Gaurav bhai, and my sincere respects to Chinnamaji and lots of love and regards to Anushka.
Thank you. Take care. Namaskar.
Namaskar.